The Chronicles of the Crisis, the series. The Osiris Myth. Tipping the Scales. The paranoia Thoth's visions instilled in him has started to spread around the council. Osiris himself seems the most shaken of all. Even though Osiris still wants to trust his brother, he still refuses to confront Set about Thoth's allegations. Set himself doesn't even know about the vision, and Osiris doesn't want to give him any ideas. It's still the same day that Isis informed her husband of what Thoth told her, but things are already starting to shift. Set is confused and a little frustrated with his brother, as Osiris has been avoiding him for most of the day, and when they do run into each other, he's super weird about it. Set wants to be able to see his brother and enjoy his company, but he also has a job to do with him, and something he really needs to tell him. The Dark Deity eventually just gives up and goes to seek out his wife instead, seeing as Osiris won't even work with him. Speaking of Nephthys, she and Isis are simply enjoying their day. Osiris hasn't called them together for any decisions, so they don't really have to worry about much today. This is a rarity for the gods. They're constantly busy, so the girls are more than happy to take the day off. Set, unfortunately, comes to interrupt their peace. Isis is a little on edge when Set shows up, as she's a little wary of him after hearing Thoth's warning. She does a good job of hiding it, though, and watches her sister interact with the Dark Deity. Nephthys says she's surprised to see him, as she thought he would have been catching up with Osiris in his free time. They don't normally have moments like this, after all. She asks him why he's out here alone. Set answers that he did want to catch up with Osiris, but the pharaohs started acting weird around him, and that he doesn't know why. He's clearly and understandably frustrated, but he also seems to be more upset than he should be for this situation. Nephthys, knowing her husband, catches on to this, and she decides to pull him aside to talk about it. Isis doesn't say anything to Set, but she is listening to their initial conversation. As she listens, she realizes that Osiris' erratic behavior might be the result of her conversation with him earlier in the morning. Ah, shit. This causes her to feel guilty. She's clearly caused her husband to be on edge. She's still not sure what to think about Set, but she doesn't really think he'll hurt anyone. After all, he hasn't done anything to warrant that kind of paranoia yet. She watches Set and Nephthys go aside to speak privately. Curious, Isis follows, trying to eavesdrop a little bit. Nephi is trying to coax Mr. Ego to open up about why he's had a stick up his ass all day. She points out that he was acting weird this morning, too, and now he's a little too agitated for his own good. Set tells Nephthys that it's about what happened last night, during the nightly journey. He finally reveals what shook him up so badly, and why he was so uneasy this morning. He says that, while fighting Apep, the serpent spoke to him. Apep isn't normally one for talk, seeing as he's a giant demon trying to devour the sun, so the fact he said anything at all is worrying in and of itself. Set wasn't able to make out everything Apep was saying, as they were still fighting. He'd first thought it was just a poor attempted banter, or insults. He still defeated the demon like he normally would, but Set was finally able to hear Apep as he was fading away. He was strangely triumphant, even in his death. The serpent said, loud and clear, "I can feel it now. You may beat back chaos tonight, but the scales are shifting. Balance will not last forever. Chaos will reign." Understandably, that's some pretty cryptic shit to come from a primordial being that's just as old as Ra is. Nephthys is pretty spooked just hearing Set recount the tale. Both of them, and all the gods, know that chaotic energy is dangerous to the Duat. Poor Set knows this better than most, as he's been bashed over the head with the knowledge his own chaos energy poisoned Newt while she was pregnant with him. Even if Set himself is the god of chaos, everyone else is aligned with order. So, when he heard the serpent's words, his first concern was that his wife and family would be in danger. He was relieved to see that Nephthys was okay when he came home this morning, but he hadn't wanted to worry her with what he'd heard, at least not yet. He'd wanted to sleep on things to try and calm down a little before he started telling his siblings what he'd learned. He explains that he visited Osiris later in the day, like he normally would, but that he'd wanted to try and organize a council to talk about what had happened. And, well, now Osiris isn't listening to him. Nephi insists that they need to try and speak with him, as this is information everyone needs to know. The serpent might be planning something sinister for the next nightly journey, and one little slip-up could be catastrophic. Set agrees with her, and asks for help in getting Osiris to talk with him. Of course, Mr. Ego assures that whatever happens, he can protect the Sunbards on his own. But he'd rather not get blindsided. Isis, meanwhile, is practically reeling from the new information. She's not even sure what to think. But she has her suspicions. Chaos will reign. It's just like Thoth said. And apparently, Apep uttered those words the very same night Thoth tried to share his vision with Isis and Nephthys. The connection is disturbing and damning. Set is the only god in the pantheon with a chaos alignment. Balance. That's chaos and order working together. Thoth suspected Set wanted to take the throne. To reign. Even if the Dark Deity isn't plotting against Osiris, Set would be the next in line for pharaohhood if something were to happen to his brother. For chaos, Set to reign, something has to happen to Osiris first. Isis knows this can't be mere coincidence, but she doesn't know what to do. Set and Nephthys want to share the information with the other gods, which Isis is very much in agreement with. But that means letting Set get in close proximity to Osiris. What if he decides to take advantage of the opportunity? Set has a reputation as a trickster already. Did he have it in him to use Nephthys' love for him to commit treason? Isis is torn. She could follow her suspicions and make sure Set never gets the chance to approach Osiris. Or she could accept the potential risks and put her trust in Nephthys. Before she has the chance to make a decision, however, she's caught. Set is understandably miffed to find Isis eavesdropping on their conversation. But given the nature of the knowledge, he's not too upset. She was gonna find out soon anyway. Nephi was probably going to turn around and tell her the moment they were done. Nephthys herself, meanwhile, cuts to the chase and asks how much Isis heard, to which her sister replies, everything. Set asks if she's willing to help get Osiris up to speed, seeing as they need to start gathering up the other deities. Isis hesitates, then accepts. She's trying to figure out how to game this system and minimize all potential risks, so she suggests that the three of them split up to go inform the other deities. This will allow her to alert Osiris of the danger, while keeping him away from Set's claws. Much to her relief, her siblings are quick to agree. Isis will go straight to Osiris and let him know, while Nephthys and Set can go fetch Sobek, Sekhmet, and Thoth. Ra is currently high in the sky, meaning that it could take hours to chase down his solar boat. They'll have to wait until sunset to try and contact him about the situation. With that plan in place, all three of them head off in different directions to round up the others. Isis returns to the palace and sets out to fill in her husband about the situation. When she runs into Osiris, he's on his own. He's shut himself up by the looks of things. The young king is trying to handle his new knowledge carefully, but it's understandably left him a little shell-shocked. One of the people he trusted most in the world has suddenly become a suspect for treason. He greets his wife warmly, trying to bury the worries he has, but Isis can see right through him. She briefly contemplates withholding the message from him, as more stress might not be good for the pharaoh. Keeping it from him, though, could do just as much harm, if not more. Isis tells him the news about Apep's cryptic message. She tells it as she remembers, and explains her own worries about Set. She also advises Osiris to continue staying away from the Dark Deity, as the cards are lining up to confirm their suspicions about him. Osiris is distraught by this news. For a moment, he's quiet. He doesn't know what to do. He's always relied on his wife and siblings to help him make decisions. But he can't rely on them anymore. Not this time. This is a matter he himself has to man up and deal with. He loves his brother, but he's not going to roll over and die willingly. He doesn't need protecting. He can protect himself. Instead of continuing to wallow in his worries, the king puts his foot down. It's like some kind of switch has been flipped, and Osiris proves exactly why he is kingly material. Set is known for taking action, so Osiris will be one step ahead of him. He'll take action first. He asks Isis where Set is now. Isis tells him that he and Nephthys have gone to alert the other deities. Osiris instructs her to go find Set and keep an eye on him. He will stay behind and make arrangements for a meeting. It's very late in the day when the council starts. It will be sunset soon. Osiris, Isis, Nephthys, Thoth, Sopek, and Sekhmet are present, but not Set. Nephthys handled Sekhmet and Thoth, while Set alerted Sobek. He also, however, made an attempt to chase down the sun barge, so that Ra might join him in the council. Isis did her job and shadowed him most of the way, just to make sure he didn't start trouble. But she made it back in time. Set eventually realizes he's running late, and he turns back towards the palace. He at least wants to be there for some of the council, and chasing Ra hasn't gotten him anywhere. When Set gets back to the palace, though, he finds the doors shut tight. Confused, he loops around the palace. He can see light through the windows and underneath the doors, but he can't get in. He knows the council has probably started already, but he doesn't understand why the place is all locked up. They wouldn't normally do this. The dark deity eventually just clambers into the palace through a window, making sure to stop and unlock the doors before continuing on his way. After all, they couldn't have meant to lock him out, right? Once Set reaches the council room, he loudly apologizes for being late and tries to get himself caught up. His wife greets him warmly, if quietly, and he seats himself next to her. Osiris and Isis don't say anything to him. Set notices that the council is going pretty normally. That's weird. The cryptic message from Apep is a pretty big bomb to drop. Why isn't everyone jumping up and proposing ways to move forward? He leans over to his wife and asks her what he missed. And Nephthys quietly tells him that they've already picked out a response to the omen. They agree to take nightly patrols and watch the skies for indications of Apep, as there isn't much preventive action they can do in this situation. Set is a little frustrated by this, as he wishes there was something more they could do. What Nephthys says next, however, really upsets him. From now on, they'll be having nightly council meetings, conveniently around the time the sun barge departs. It's a pretty obvious attempt to completely shove Set out of the picture, as there is no way for him to attend such meetings if he's to keep his nightly duties. The dark deity doesn't catch on to this right away, but as he starts putting the pieces together, his temper flares up. Osiris refused to speak with him. They locked him out of a council meeting. They won't acknowledge him in the council. And now they're adjusting meeting times to exclude him. What is this? Set immediately takes offense once he puts the pieces together. He interrupts the others' debate and ignores decorum entirely, asking why the palace was completely locked up when he arrived. Isis offers the excuse that they didn't want any mortals wandering in on such a sensitive council. While that is a valid reason, Set calls bullshit. If he's not wanted there, then fuck it! He is not going to participate in their hoity-toity courtly nonsense. He storms off and away from the council chambers, leaving his wife to scramble after him in surprise. What just happened? Thoth is busy having an aneurysm over in the corner, while Sobek and Sekhmet are still left in the dark about what the Four's issue is. Sobek is perfectly content to keep it that way, and just wants to get back to his river. Sekhmet, on the other hand, is almost as pissed off as Set. She's tired of no one telling her anything. She's their elder, for crying out loud. Osiris, seeing that things are getting tense, just adjourns the council, remarking that they've done enough to try and handle the situation. But things are already starting to shift. Are you just gonna at everything I say? Apparently everything gets a just in case. He still refuses to confront Set about those allegations. Kari. Even though Osiris still wants to trust his brother. Really? Do you have to do that, honey? You goofy girl. Let's start again from the top. She's tired of no one telling her anything. She's there. Are you mad I'm not telling you anything, Kari? No. No. No.